What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing my clutch swap on my 92 Nissan 300zx NA. There's going to be a couple of other things we're going to be doing, but mainly what we're going to be doing is the clutch swap. So I'll go over all the details soon. But I did want to give an update on the car canopy. It's been about 2 years now, and I've had people like commenting like, is it still up? I haven't seen any footage, this and that. And yes, it's still up. We're getting snow, as you guys can see. We're supposed to be getting like 8 to 12 inches. And yeah, the car canopy is still up, still functional. Mainly what I do is, as you can see, the snow on the side here, what I'll do is like when I know it's gonna snow or like be a lot of snow, I'll come and clean the top off by just like pushing it, and the snow will fall off to the side, and that's that. This side has a little bit more snow, as you can see, but it's not messing with any of the structure or anything. It's just against the tarp. So, but yeah, so we're supposed to be getting 8 to 12. We've already had like a crazy amount, so not that big of a deal. It's been up 2 years, so there's your update. Hopefully you enjoy it. But now to the real job. We're gonna head out to New England Z Performance in Ellington, Connecticut to go do my clutch swap. We got the car in, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna jack the car up, put it on some wheel dollies, dolly it on over here, because this is gonna be a long-term job. So we're gonna put it in this side of the shop so Mark can move his Z in. So that's what we're gonna be doing right now. So we have the car up on all 4 jack stands. Robbie showed me a little something for the rear. So basically what I would be doing is when I put the jack stand up, I used to put it right here on the subframe. But how Robbie explained it is that basically if you're dropping it down here, it's only resting on a little piece of the actual jack stand.
Yeah, it's resting up here on this little tiny lip here, rather than actually getting cradled by the jack stand.
So all you have to do is go in front of the sway bar here, a part of the subframe, and like he said, it cradles it right on the jack stand. So I like this way better. It's much more safer than what I've had it, because I've definitely had it. I remember like it like kind of like rocking a little bit before. So yeah, so that's perfect. And then also what a lot of people like to do is they jack their car up from the fender, as you've seen someone's done it before to my car.
The pinch welds?
Yeah, the pinch welds. You don't want to jack it up from there. You want to jack it up right from the frame rail, and there's actually a weld. I don't think you can see it on this side, but
The weld this?
Yeah, the weld right there, right?
Yeah, that's got sealant all over it right now.
So basically you want to jack it up from here, and then you put your jack stand in front of that.
That's if you can't get to the front cross member.
Yeah, if you can't get to the front cross member, like Robbie said before. So before anything you do on this job, basically what you want to do is disconnect your battery. Robbie likes to do, he said you can leave the power wire on as long as you take the ground wire off and just tuck it in the back. Like I've always done both, but he said there's no full current going around if you just take the ground off. So that's good. So disconnect the battery, and on to the next step. Under the car, basically what you're gonna do, so I do have an aftermarket exhaust on here. I have a Stillen exhaust. What we're planning on doing is taking off the exhaust one full piece. So mainly what we have to do is under the car, you're gonna have to go up, and you're gonna want a PB blast or use like a lubricant right there. There's 3 bolts and nuts. It's really hard to get this camera angle for you guys, but right up in there, there's 3 of them from where the exhaust meets the manifold. Basically what you're gonna do is lubricate those up, let them sit for a little bit, and then you're gonna wanna take those nuts and bolts out. Basically there's a stud from the top that goes down, and then there's a nut on the bottom. As you can see, I still have the AIVs on this car, so this car is completely unmolested. So I still have the AIVs. So what we're gonna do is right here, we're gonna undo this and pull this pipe off the AIV. I wanna keep the AIVs on the car just because I just wanna keep it unmolested. I don't know why, it's something that I wanna do. So a lot of people delete them, but I really don't want it. So we're gonna do that. So do that one. There's one on each side. And then basically what you're gonna do is looking towards the rear of the car. You have your cats, and then right here, you're gonna have to, I already lubricated all these 4 bolts up. You're gonna take that little cross member beam off, pull it down. And later on, we're gonna go through the back and take the mufflers out of their hangers. So if you can see, right down in here, that hanger straight ahead, we're just gonna take the mufflers off of that on each side, and then slowly work our way up till we get to the exhaust bolts. So after you get the support brace off that goes across the exhaust right here, those 2 bolts there and the 2 bolts on the other side, you're gonna have to come up towards the middle, and you're gonna have to get that bolt. So right there, you're gonna have to get that bolt, and then you're gonna have to come around and get this one, the matching one on the other side. This is basically, you can see this bar go across right here. That's helping hold up the exhaust also. So you have to undo those 2 bolts, and then basically after that, I already got all the 6 exhaust bolts that come off of the headers. All those nuts are taken off, so then basically this thing would be like the exhaust is gonna be able to move. So that's the next step. So after you take out these 2 12mm bolts here, there's gonna be 2 more facing the front of the car going this way from behind this piece up in here. So there's gonna be 2 there. Basically, after you take that off, you're gonna be able to take the exhaust off. All right, guys, so we got the exhaust off now. It's definitely a 2-person job, or you can take it in 3 separate parts if you want. It'll be a lot easier. But basically what we did is Robbie pulled from the back, I held from the front, and we kind of just brought it out from the bottom. Yeah, so
we were able to work it past the hard part.
Yeah, we got it out. We got it out. So my shoulder's paying for it a little bit, but we're good.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
But so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back under the car, and then we're gonna work on the heat shield now because we have to get the drive shaft off. So this is what we're gonna have to get off here. So now we have to work on this heat shield. Taking this heat shield off, there's just little screws holding it in here, there, and on the other side. And then we'll start working on the drive shaft. We got the heat shield off now. So now it's basically working on the drive shaft going into the transmission, and then also these 2 bolts right here, holding that in. So we're gonna work from the rear, back here, unbolt it, and then we're gonna be able to do these 2, and then we'll be able to slide the drive shaft out. The rear part of the drive shaft, I got the bolts out.
You wanna explain how to do that?
Yeah, basically what you're gonna do is how they're put in is like this. So the bolt actually goes towards the rear of the car, and then the nut sits behind the sway bar like this. The head of the bolt hits that flange, and you can see where it kind of digs in. So when you tighten it, you don't need to use a wrench on this side. All you need to do is use a wrench on this side. So when it's like this.
What you want to do is you want to spin the drive shaft so that you got 2 bolts down low that you can get to. Once you remove those 2 nuts, you can throw the car in neutral and release the e-brake if you put it on. You spin the drive shaft so that the other 2 nuts are on the bottom. Then you either lock the e-brake or put it in gear. You can do both to lock the drive shaft back in place, and then you can loosen the other 2 nuts and back that off.
And then all you're basically gonna do, the easiest way that I found out, I was taught this by Mark like way back, and then Robbie like just showed me again, is you're gonna grab a 14mm wrench, you're gonna put it like this, and then what you're gonna do is like the double wrench method, where you put the other wrench on here, and it's gonna give you the leverage to be able to break them loose. So now we go to the center support. We're gonna take these 2 bolts out, and then basically what we're gonna do after we take that out is you're gonna kind of lower the drive shaft just a little bit because it's gonna kind of sag.
Yeah,
and then
drop the center.
Yeah, and then with the clearance from that, there's a little lip right here. So I'm trying to get you guys a good.
We can get him a picture of the flange later.
Yeah, so we can get you a picture of it, but basically this part has a little lip where this sits onto, so it kind of, it's like...
The drive shaft sits inside the pinion bearing a little bit.
So you'll see...
not the bearing, but the pinion.
Yeah. So you'll see the actual, you'll see the lip in a couple seconds. I'll show you guys when I drop this down. So this is the lip that we were talking about, what sits So there you go. So what you do basically when you take out those two 17mm bolts out of the middle, this will drop.
Yeah, it'll hang like that.
It'll kink.
So then you'll have enough room to pop this section off here.
Yeah, you'll pop it out and then you'll pull from the front of the car back. You'll pull back towards the back of the car and it'll slide.
Yeah, you got to get the slip yoke out.
Yeah, it'll slip that out.
This just slides right into the tail of the trans.
And that's that. So now we're starting to get to the big boy stuff.
Yeah, now we got to disconnect the shifter. We got to unplug the wiring harness. We're going to do it right off the transmission. Now we're just going to unplug everything off the transmission. We got to take the starter off, the slave cylinder off, the shifter, and pretty sure then we can get the bell housing bolts.
Yep. So that's what we're gonna do. As you guys can see down in here. So this is all the wiring. So you can see like the ground. Yes, I have an oil leak, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm doing this clutch swap is because I was like thinking if I'm gonna change a swap, I might as well change the rear main seal and see where the oil's coming from. So, so we're gonna take that ground off there. We're gonna take the slave off, that rusted piece right there. And then we're gonna go around, take the starter off right here. And then all this wiring, we're gonna all start unplugging this.
All the way back to here.
Yeah, it goes all the way. You can see the sensors up top, so those we'll have to unplug and everything. So
this ground wire comes off with the bell.
yeah, that's what I was telling them.
Transmission bracket bolts.
So there's a lot to do right now. So that's what we're gonna do. And then as we're doing that, I'll probably have Robbie, since his hands are a little bit cleaner than mine, probably start working on the shifter. Okay, so the first thing I did is I took the slave cylinder off here. So the clutch slave cylinder, it's hanging. This is what it looks like. It's two 14mm bolts. So you're gonna do that, take that off. Then the next thing I did is I unplugged the starter. So now I'm gonna start working on the starter heat shield. So there's 4 bolts or 3 bolts here. 10mm bolts. We're gonna take this heat shield off. It'll expose the bolts that we can actually take off the starter. Yeah, so as you see, I got the dust shield off the starter. So now we're just gonna have to disconnect the power wire from the back here. So right here, it's right under this rubber grommet here, 12mm bolt right there. From there, we gotta get this bolt up here, and then there's one more in the front. All right, guys, so now I got the starter out. The mounting points for the starter, there's an acorn nut that goes up top here. It's a stud that comes off the transmission. There's also a bolt that goes to the bottom for the slip side. And then there's one more that's up top with the bracket, because the bracket actually holds on the power wire for the starter right where that nut is. So once you get those 3 off, you're good to go. Do be careful, this is super heavy, so you don't want this to fall on your face. That's why they have the stud on the top. But yeah, so we're gonna put this over with the drive shaft. And now back to under the car, which what we're gonna do now, so that you guys can see with everything off. You can kind of see the flywheel now. So now we're gonna start working on those wires up top there. Now I'm helping Robbie get the actual A-arm and the shifting bracket out of the way. So there's 4 12mm bolts right here, right there, right there, right there. So we just put some lubrication on there. So we're gonna let it sit for a couple minutes and then try to back them out. What I've been working on is this wiring harness right here. So there's little tabs going along. You can see that like little C-clamp right there kind of thing. It's like a bendable like metal. So all you do is unbend it so you can get this harness off. And then you're gonna start working on the plugs right there. So as you can see, I got the connectors disconnected right here, coming down the training tunnel. There's gonna be 3 of those bendable metal things where the line runs on top of the tranny. You're just gonna have to undo those. Once you're able to undo those, you can drop these wires down lower so you can get the clips. It's much easier that way. And then there's a little 10mm bolt that holds right here for this bracket up against here. I'll show you right here. So that bracket gets held up by this bolt right here. And then basically you can take that down, drop it so the wires stay out of the way. so the training won't be messed with. And that's about it. You got your starter cable here disconnected. Everything's disconnected. So now we're gonna do those 4 bolts on the A bracket for Robbie to pull the shifter out, and then we're gonna start working on the transmission bolts. So all these going around, and we'll show you a little trick how to get the infamous top bolt up there, and then we'll work on the transmission bracket, and then we'll be able to drop this turd. Took those 4 bolts off, and then I also forgot to tell you guys, this is a 12 millimeter bolt with a nut here also that you're gonna have to take off so you can actually drop the A-arm with the shifter out through. And that's what it looked like. And my shifter bushings are non-existent, so literally shot. It comes with a sleeve where
I set it
right there.
Yeah,
you
put it on the stud.
Yep, put it on the stud, but the sleeve goes in there, so it makes sure that your shifter isn't wobbly in that, basically, so this could fit through. Basically what we're gonna do now is start working on the transmission bolts. So all the transmission bolts around, there's 9, right? 7 or 9?
I forget, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll count them out. We'll count them out when we get all this crap done, but I'm pretty sure there's either 7 or 9 of them. So we're gonna start working on these now, and then I'll show you exactly where you got to go and where the locations are, because they get tricky.
Do this bracket first so that we can drop the transmission down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So we can see the top bolts.
Okay.
We're gonna get the first couple top bolts first.
Yep.
And then we can level the transmission out and get the brackets. I mean the bottom bolts out, and then pull the transmission off. That way, I don't know.
Yeah, I got you.
That way it's not at a huge angle. We're working at the top bolt.
It'll be easier to get to the top bolts if you basically tilt the transmission down. It'll be easier. It's going to clear up some space through the training tunnel. Okay, guys, so Robbie's got the jack set up right on that cross beam here for the transmission.
It's set a little far back. But.
Yeah, he took the bolts out on each side, and then basically he just started to lower the jack really, like, little by little closely, and he wants me checking up here. What Robbie wants us to do now is, while he is actually tilting the transmission, he wants to make sure that the heater hoses are not going to hit the firewall here. All right, go ahead.
Got its own weight right now.
Yeah, it's straight, man. It looks clean. It looks all right.
Fine, all right.
Yeah. So basically, he didn't want any of these to go against the firewall right there. So it's clean. It's got room. So this is gonna be.
You're not gonna have this at home.
No.
But you can grab a couple extensions, and I would definitely recommend getting a swivel socket.
Yeah. So what size swivel socket?
This is 9/16. It's the same as 14 mil.
14 mil.
So.
Okay. So basically, I've done this like 2 other times. One in my Black Z, and then 1 time in the drift car. And I had, no joke, probably 3, 4, or maybe even 5 extensions. I remember I had 1 extension reach all the way, like, almost to, like, mid-car in the training tunnel. Because that's how I had to, like, fish it in. And it works, but it is tough. This is no joke. So this is going to be sick. This is going to make life so much easier. So the bolt that he's trying to get... The bolt he's trying to get is up there. You can see it right there. So it's kind of hard because the camera doesn't want to focus. Right there. That is the toughest one out of all of them you'll get. So we're gonna get that one, and then there's another one up here, right there, and then we'll go down and around. But that is hands down the toughest one to get. This is your bolt pattern. This is how the bolts are set up on the transmission. So this is the top left, the top right, and then it goes down this way. So the reason why these 3 bolts here, 1, 2, and 3, are faced this way is because if you're looking at the front of the car, they're actually screwed into the transmission from the front to the rear. All the rest of them, these ones, are from the rear to the front, how they're screwed in. So if you're looking, they're screwed in this way. So those are those. There's actually 10 bolts. So just remember that. And now Robbie's got this set up. The jack's on the holding up the transmission, And then we're both going to be under here holding this. He's just prying the transmission apart from the actual engine now. So as you can see, it's rocking. So, and then this is the transmission, or the dust shield from the transmission. One of them. There's two.
Yeah.
So this one fell off the bottom. So we're gonna put that off to the side, and now we're gonna start working on this. So I'll get you.
Yeah, we're gonna need all four hands.
Yeah. Here's the transmission. As you can see, my oil leak was not helping my clutch whatsoever. So I was feeling that there was a clutch slip. I just felt like that's what I felt. And I mean, it's all coated. So that's definitely an issue. So we're gonna see exactly where the leak's from. But going on from here, this is the transmission. So these are those sensors that you had to unplug. And then these are those little black clips that you kind of fold and have the wire run along it. So shifting bracket. So yeah, I mean, that's the transmission. So let's see where we're leaking from. Here's your actual clutch. So basically what we got to do now is grab a 12mm socket, go around, take off the pressure plate, and then we'll be able to see the actual clutch and flywheel. So now Robbie's taking off the flywheel. He noticed some hot spots on the flywheel. So we're trying to see my old clutch. I'll show you guys in a little bit. It was basically, it wasn't fully worn, but it was pretty close. So, which is a good thing that, I mean, I'm swapping it out. He's thinking that possibly these hot spots on the flywheel are from the oil slippage. So we're gonna see as soon as he takes this off, and we're gonna check everything out. So after all the bolts are out, all you gotta do is just rock it off, just like that.
Just careful, it's heavy.
Yeah, and then you'll see your actual the dust shield is up there too, as you can see. I think it was is it the pan? I think it's the pan, bro. The pan's leaking. Right there.
It's probably a hull of it, pal.
The pan and the rear main?
Yeah, the rear main could be dripping down onto it.
Yeah, true.
And then the flywheel's sending it everywhere.
Yeah. So.
Because, yeah, it's on the back of the flywheel.
Yeah. So the rear main, oops, sorry. Just smoked Robbie in the head. The rear main seal is this part right here. And then the oil pan's right here. It connects basically to the bottom of that. It's RTV'd and it's held in with bolts and stuff. So we got to actually see basically where this is coming from. Coming on over to the actual clutch. Robbie was explaining to me that you can actually see the wear pattern on it. And mainly is that these rivets that you can actually see in the clutch here. Basically, it's like kind of hard to see, but once you start to wear down, it'll actually see that this rivet will actually make contact with the flywheel, and that's when it's bad. And that's like when you'll start seeing hot spots in a worn flywheel. Thankfully, I haven't had any of them hit the flywheel.
But they are getting pretty close.
It was getting super close, so he's like, it's a good thing that you're doing that.
The reason he's probably getting a clutch slip is the oil is coming from the rear main or wherever, the oil pan. It's coming from there, getting flung around on the flywheel. It could be getting on the clutch disc and causing it to slip.
Yeah.
Causing an oil slippage.
Yeah. And then he says also, like, when you do take your clutch off, just saying if you're doing some other kind of work on your car, you want to check these springs to see if there's any broken springs. And then also on the pressure plate,
which is still under the car, you want to make sure that it's not warped or anything. All the fingers are all level. They all got pressure on them.
Yeah. So it's a good thing that we checked it. Like I said, it's pretty smoked, and I don't know. Good gut feeling, I guess. And then I'm going to show you exactly what Grip Force sent me, the carbon Kevlar stage 2 clutch. So we'll get into that soon.
Don't mind me, I'm just fingering the hole.
All right, so basically where Robbie is fingering, there's a pilot bushing in there that you're going to have to, if it's in good condition, you won't have to pull out, but ours was all chewed up. So he pulled ours out. And the clutch kit from Grip Force comes with a new one. So we pulled that out. That's out. So he's cleaning all that up. And now pretty much we got to put the new pilot bushing in and then reverse the steps. Basically, right now, we're ready to start working with the new clutch. So like I said, this is from Grip Force, Stage 2, the carbon Kevlar clutch disc here. Here, Robbie's going to open it up and look at this sexy thing. Look at that thing. Ooh, boy. So the kit comes with the clutch disc, a new pressure plate, the new throwout bearing, the actual the alignment tool, and a pilot bushing. So they all comes with that. Yep. So this is gonna be your first step now. After removing that old one, the first step is to put that new one in.
We gotta start with the rear main seal first.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Before that, we're gonna actually work with this part here, and the rear main seal is in this Velcro box. So when you guys are doing a clutch swap, you guys might as well just go ahead. This right here, this kit was like $16, I think, or something like that, for these gaskets. This was another $6 for the oil pan gaskets. And then the clutch was $82. So $82, dude, shipped for a freaking clutch. Like, my clutch that I had from prior Z's, it was a Center Force Stage 2 clutch, and it cost me like $300. So, but yep, so it comes with all the gaskets that you need. So he's just looking for the right one to line up.
I think this kit actually just comes with a couple different styles, the RTV.
Yeah. And then this is your rear main seal here.
But that's the gasket that matches.
Yep.
So it sits flat.
Yep. So we're gonna put this on. We're gonna work with this, then the rear main seal, then the pilot bushing, and then so on. I just cleaned up the tranny. Yep. I cleaned up the tranny, so all that nasty oil that was just getting shot in here, I just took some brake cleaner and just sprayed the crap out of it and basically just wiped it down as best as I possibly could. You can obviously see more black in there in those, but I really can't get my fingers in there that deep, so sounds like my problem, I know. But yeah, so that's clean. I cleaned these shields also. Shields are clean. The lower shield's clean. And now I gotta clean my starter because my starter's soaked in oil. As you can see, that's oil. So I gotta soak that, wipe it down, whatever. So here's your half moon seal. Basically what this part is, we'll show you guys exactly what we gotta do, but this is gonna go and this is gonna connect actually to the oil pan.
It's upside down right now.
Yeah, it sits like that. Well, yeah, my hand, there you go. That's how it sits. So you guys will be able to see it in a couple seconds.
I put a little RTV right here in the corner.
Oh yeah,
little RTV. On top, like in between the seal and the housing, and I put a little more just on top here for when it mates against the oil pan. So that way it's got a good seal right there in the corner. Tends to leak a little bit there. That it's got a new seal on it, trying to push it on with those dowel pins, it's gonna try to hold the housing up a little bit, so I had to pinch it down just so that it would come down far enough to seat on that dowel. Now that we got it on enough, we can pull it in with the bolt slowly.
What Robbie's doing right now is he's pressing the pilot bushing in with a rubber mallet. He's using a 17mm socket right now. before he did that, he put that rear main seal in, the brown seal there. He put that in, and then he just pressed in the pilot bushing. All right, guys. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to torque these bolts down on the flywheel to 65 foot-pounds of torque. What you're going to have to do is put a screwdriver through this backing plate into the plate where the training would bolt up to. And what you're going to do is use a pry bar to hold in through one of the gears like this, apply a down pressure here while someone else is torquing those bolts down, so it keeps the flywheel from moving. After the flywheel's torqued down, now what you're going to do is actually put your clutch plate on with the alignment tool in it.
There we go.
And there you go. So that's how it sits. And now the pressure plate goes up. There's little dowel pins that are, it's going to help you line it up correctly. All right, there.
Sometimes it sits better in one spot
than the other. Yeah.
For some reason. You're gonna have to get the press down a little bit.
Yeah.
Use the bolts to suck it down around the dowel pins. There's 3 bolts that sit right next to a dowel pin, so I start with those just to settle it.
Yep. And he's doing these at 30 foot-pounds of torque. So to get the pressure plate on, so to keep the flywheel again from moving, all you want to do is screwdriver through here, pry bar into the gear, and just hold there while someone torques those down, and then you'll be good to go. Okay, guys, so now what we're going to do is work on our throwout bearing. Throwout bearing is connected to the fork here, so what we're going to have to do is there's a clip in here, and we're going to have to release this clip. There's 2 parts, 2 sides of it.
That's it.
And that's it.
We'll leave the fork there, you'll deal with it later.
Alright. So that's the throwout bearing here.
We
We're
need
gonna
to
have
take
this
the
off.
Yep.
So we're going to use this for the new one. And then we need to go press this out.
Alright, so what I'm going to use here is this piece of iron. There's a little step on the inside there. You can see where it drops in. The inner diameter gets a little bit smaller there. We're going to go ahead and press right down on that. That'll make it so that we're sure that we're not going to be binding up on the outer bearing race.
Money.
Yep.
That didn't happen, but whatever. Cast iron, we're good.
Good job.
Alright.
That's it.
So there's
She's
there's the old one. And now
Totally reusable.
here's the new one. So how do we put the new one in, Mark?
Reverse process, but again, make sure you're supporting it from this outside. It is one piece all the way through. Do not press on the bearing. Smooth entry. Real quick, go down here to the side and show where I'm supporting it. See how it's just on the lips on each side here?
It's not actually on that.
It's only on the outer race lip,
Yeah.
not on the bearing in the middle.
And it shouldn't take much force at all to press this thing down and fully seat it. And once you reach it, that's it. Back it off. That's all I should have to do.
And voila.
New assembly.
New assembly. All right, guys. So what you do is you pull your fork out. You have your new throwout bearing in your hand. You want to make sure that this spring here is intact. There's 2 little spots, like little indents in the fork, where you basically keeps the spring preloaded. What we're gonna do is we're gonna lube up this pivot ball here. Lube her up.
That's not going to be part of the rotating
Yeah,
assembly, so you can lube that up.
a good amount. So, lubed up. Now you're what you're gonna do, okay? On the throwout bearing, you're gonna have your metal clip here. What you want to do is have the metal clip go inside the fork. You can actually see there's little indents right there and right there. This piece, that little triangle piece, is gonna fit into the fork there. So it fits in to the side of the fork, fits into the side of the fork, just like that. Now what you're gonna do is place the fork back in through the boot, fork back in the boot, and then the throwout bearing onto the spindle. Then what you're gonna wanna do is lock the fork into the pivot ball. You'll hear it click. And that's that. Okay, so once you get that on there, you want to make sure that you can push your throwout bearing all the way back so it can actually reach the rear of the transmission there. And once that's in, everything's locked in, you're good to go. So after you have the fork and the throwout bearing in place, you just want to wipe off the throwout bearing because, I mean, you're dealing with grease and all that crap. But you still want to make sure that on the spindle, there's that little bit of lubricant on there. So it just helps you when you're putting it back into the pilot bushing. Hey guys, so what we're doing now is we're grabbing all the bolts in order. And Robbie's putting them back in reverse order. Alright guys, so we have the transmission up. After the transmission, basically we hooked up the starter and the slave cylinder, connected all the wiring, tucked the wiring away, and then we put the drive shaft up. Now after the drive shaft, what we're going to do is put the heat shield up, put the exhaust up, and then put our little cross member beam right here up. And we should be good to go. And the job is done. The exhaust is back up, and it's good to go. So we're going to drop her, see how it goes. Robbie already went around, connected the battery. So everything's all set. So in the Z now, after the clutch swap, and everything feels great. The clutch pedal is nice and stiff. It is a stage 2 clutch, but like I said, it's not anything too drastic, but it definitely is changed up from the last clutch that I had. So obviously this can be because the new pressure plate, but yeah, I like it. It's nice and stiff. The car's running great. So I would definitely call this a success. Alright guys, so back home after doing the clutch replacement, I just basically drove about 30 miles and then added another 43 miles on there. So I've been around like 70 miles total after getting gas and everything. There's no slippage. The pedal is like tough. Like it feels so good. Like like on the old clutch, the pedal was really soft, and so it was definitely well needed. Like I said, that oil problem definitely could have caused something too for that to like uneven wear or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, basically that's it. Hopefully the tutorial helped you guys out, and hopefully it'll help out with generations to come on the Z car. But going from there, you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Definitely get some merch. We have shirts, we have decals, all that stuff on the website, or just shoot us a DM. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.